Hey YouTube, this is Gonna Run 13. And this last video was basically an adaptation of a scenario that I may very well one day go through. So we plan and we plan and we plan and we plan and prepare and prepare and prepare and we plan and prepare some more for every contingency, everything that could be possibly thrown at us. During a RAL, the breakdown of the rule of law, or an SHTF, my general plan isn't to bug out, as I've told you before in the past. My general plan is actually to defend myself and my neighbors from my home. And I have talked many times about what I've been doing with my preps is actually purchasing firearms specifically for building up my community and supplying them to help maintain our community, defend ourselves, protect ourselves. And ultimately, when it comes down to everything that I do, all my preparedness, it's all built around my family, okay? Protecting my family, number one. So when I have a plan of purchasing 6 to 7 fighting rifles, AK-47s, 5 or 6 SKSs to go with the same round, 5 to 10 Mosin Nagants. The reason why I do that is to supply other people in my community who are basically going to protect my family. That's why I'm doing this. Ultimately, it's to help. It's to help out others, but ultimately it is to help protect my family. These are people that will help provide security for my family as I will for theirs. It got me thinking a lot about RAL in that situation, ultimately looking at a long-term RAL. And if it were to work out the way of, it's been going on for a year now, you developed your whole community, you developed your plan, your defense, you've set up your perimeters, you've armed everybody, you've trained, you have your security teams and you have your actual wolf packs. I want to get into wolf packs too. I want to put my interpretation on the wolf pack also. It's a very interesting thought. But ultimately, I think about how will that really look like? How will things look in that situation? Okay. You think of war, going back to almost every single war that has been fought has ultimately been about one thing. The common denominator between almost all wars and battles, well, there's actually two things. It's been about territory and religion. Okay. Now, I've been thinking a lot about RAL in the future with these communities and community wars and stuff like that. How will communities be set up? Will it be just ultimately your neighbors? Will it turn into a religious fight? Will it be religious groups against religious groups? This has happened in the past. So why would I not think that could be possible? Would it be my religion? Would I, collectively gather with other people who support my religious beliefs, and would we form a community? Or would it be my neighbor to my left and my neighbor to my right, my neighbor across the street? It's kind of something that's been in my thought, because like I said, wars have all been about territory and religion. And if I'm protecting and defending my community in a certain location, there's my territory. But will things change. You know, well, if you don't have the ultimate religious beliefs of everyone else, would you continue to be fed and armed and protected? You know, it really makes me wonder, makes me think. You know, only time would tell in that certain situation what would happen. You know, I also think about stuff like, you know, you see the store being looted because people are hungry, and people, the best of people will do bad when it comes to being hungry. It's kind of the worst things you'll ever see in your life, what people can actually do because of them being hungry or dying of thirst and stuff like that. So ultimately, if I were to see a store being looted, and I know those supplies got to go to people, would I not partake in looting that? You know, those are certain things. I consider myself a really good person. You know, I consider myself to do the things that are right for other people. Now, looting the store, taking away from others, is a terrible thing. But in that situation, wouldn't I do that to help my family survive? Would I not, you know, take advantage of any little situation like that if I come upon somebody's cache, say through these woods? Somebody has a cache full of food, supplies, weapons, medical, all that. Would I not take advantage of that? It's hard to say no. Hard to say no in that situation. I mean, that goes kind of against my religious beliefs, you know, taking away from others. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, it's about the number one thing, and that's the survival and the existence of my family and protecting my family. So what would Raw look like in the future? What would our communities be like? Would they be based on religion? Would they be based off of race? Is that something that could happen? I mean, ultimately, I will say, me personally, it's about good people and people who will help protect my family, and I'll help protect your family. I don't care religious background. It's about surviving. But something long term, years and years and years, when you're trying to rebuild, I guess only time will tell. It's just the thought I wanted to kind of put out there about the WROL and SHTF situation scenarios. You know, what really would come about, you know, our communities, what would we really fight for? I can tell you one thing, you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. You're going to need armed people to help protect you and your family, and that's why I do it. That's why I stockpile stuff. That's why I plan on distributing and protecting others to help protect my family, because I ain't going to be able to protect my family against everything. And I'd be naive and stupid to think I could just hide it out in the woods by ourselves, living off the land. We could do it for a while, but that, you know, you can only survive so long. Eventually got to live. Just thought, YouTube.